The Tribune Review said of A Midsummer Night's Dream, director Ted Pappas has created a lush and lovely production that not only delights the eye and the ear, but also generates a surprising number of laughs. Indeed, Ted's trademark seems to be his clear, consistent interpretation of a play and his ability to transform audiences into a universe of his creation. During his tenure at Pittsburgh Public Theater, Ted has directed numerous productions, from ancient classics like Oedipus to contemporary dramas like Art, and from lavish musicals like Cabaret to local favorites like The Chief. Some of you may know that I work for Ted as the marketing and promotions assistant at the Public Theater. He's been very gracious and supportive of me and this program, and it is my pleasure to have him as my guest tonight. Thanks for joining us, Ted.
Hello.
Well, we're here to talk about Camelot, and that is a show that in many ways will meld two of your strongest talents, directing and choreography, which so few directors do together. Do you find directing shows like this more challenging because of the increased workload, or easier because of your familiarity with them?
Well, in one sense, it's easier to direct and choreograph because you're using one vocabulary and one vision. Yes. I think part of what's exciting and tricky about collaborating with designers and choreographers and directors when they're different people is making sure everyone's doing the same show. In this case, I'm pretty secure that I'm telling the story from one point of view. On the other hand, it's always nice to get another voice in there and expand the vocabulary. So one of the things I look out for when I direct and choreograph is to make sure that I'm giving both positions all the full ammunition they need to tell the story.
What was your process as a director, and how did you approach the text?
Well, almost the same way that I would do any play, I think. Any play by Shakespeare, any play by Sophocles. I try to understand why they wrote it. What did they have in mind when they were trying to tell the story? I deal with solving the problems and how to stage it and how to cast it later. I try to figure out why it exists in the first place. Obviously, the Arthur legend is something that goes back, thousands of years, and it's been told in a variety of forms, from films to poems to epic tales, and now it's in the form of a musical. Why is it a musical? What makes it exciting? And that's how I began.
As you said, the Arthurian legend is over 1,000 years old. So does directing Camelot feel more like directing Euripides or Sophocles or even Shakespeare? Or is it more like directing a contemporary musical?
Well, it's a little bit of all of that. I think for me, in that space at the O'Reilly, that beautiful open space where the audience surrounds the actors so intimately, I will tend to give it the kind of bravura staging I would want to give for a Shakespearean play like Midsummer or Much Ado About Nothing. At the same time, the language, even though it's formal, is very modern. And it has the formality of any great musical in that the lyrics rhyme. There's a terseness in the writing to get to the next exciting beat. I think it's a combination of the two. It's not a typical musical comedy because it tells an epic tale.
Yes. How will you approach the rehearsal process, and how will you incorporate the music and dance into the Camelot story, melding that play with the music?
Well, I will begin with the principal performers. I'll start with the leads sitting around a table for at least 3 days, speaking the show, not singing it yet, talking the lyrics, making the lyrics part of the dialogue to make sure that the separation between song and text is not remarkable, that it all flows into one. We'll begin with it as a play, and then they will start learning the music and integrating the notes and the harmonies into the text, and then voila, we're on our feet. And then we bring in the full chorus and start really telling the story with the staging as well as the text.
Oh, how interesting. You really start it like a play.
I have to start it like a play. No matter what musical I do, I sit at the table with the actors studying every single word before we even sing one note of music.
Can you tell us a little bit about the cast?
Well, the cast is fabulous. First of all, there are 22 people in the show, so
oh my gosh.
It's gigantic, and it needs to be. It's a big story, and they're big characters, and there's a lot at stake in it. So first of all, it's a large cast. They're from all over the country and indeed from all over the world. Our leading man playing King Arthur is a brilliant actor named Hayden T. He's a New Zealand native. He's a star in Australia. He's new to our country.
Oh, wow.
And it is a perfect fit. It's a great role for him. And I have found wonderful actors for all the roles. For the role of Guinevere, Kimberly Burns, and it's just a lovely, young, exciting, sexy, attractive cast who can sing the show. You got to be able to sing it, and that was the first criterion.
Oh, can you tell us a little bit about the legendary duo Lerner and Loewe?
Well, they've written a lot of great shows together, and I think Camelot is one of their best, but they're probably most famously known for writing My Fair Lady, which some people think is the perfect musical. They could not have been more different as people. I mean, one of them was born in Berlin, Frederick Loewe, and Alan J. Lerner is from the Lerner family of ladies' stores, clothing stores. He was sort of the scion of a great inheritance and grew up on the East Coast, New York, Harvard graduated. But what linked them was this feeling of romance in the theater. They both believed in beauty and in bringing history to life. Some of their best shows are historical, like My Fair Lady and Gigi, of course, and Camelot, the most historical of all.
And such legendary characters that we hear about all
well,
the
they
time.
like writing for big characters, and they like writing for big actors. I'm sure it wasn't easy to write for Rex Harrison, and yet they went from Rex Harrison to Richard Burton, who was 34 when he did Camelot in 1960. It was a young cast. Julie Andrews, the great leading lady of Broadway, was only 25 when she played Guinevere. So they knew how to pick them. They knew how to pick the stories, but they also knew how to pick the actors to play those stories. They discovered Robert Goulet for Lancelot.
Can you tell us a little bit about the set?
Well, it's big and beautiful, like most of the sets at the Public Theater. It's such a remarkable space. What you want is to be able to flow from scene to scene. Camelot has a lot of scenes, and it goes from indoors to outdoors. It goes from magic to battles. It goes from domestic scenes and comedy scenes to high drama. So you want a set that you can move on very quickly. At the same time, because the story is so grand, you want to create an epic world, an epic medieval world. And so there's a lot of stonework. Everything is handmade at the Public. The set is being built as we speak, and I'm sure it'll be built up until the last minute because there's a lot of it.
And if I may, one of the things I'm always impressed about your direction is the way that it flows. I think your choreography always comes out, and you handle a big cast and a space so well. So I'm really interested to see what you do.
Well, it doesn't get much bigger than Camelot, so that'll be the true test. But I don't feel overwhelmed by large numbers of actors. That's how I started working in the business with big shows, and it just gives you more to work with. What you want to do is tell the story, and what's tricky is focus sometimes. Where do you want the audience to look at any given point? But if you're going to attempt to tell a tale as grand and large and epic as Camelot, the more the merrier.
I wonder if we could talk briefly about the final 3 shows. You chose very contemporary plays, starting with Annie Baker's Circle Mirror Transformation.
Fabulous play, yes.
How did you choose it?
Well, I read it and I loved it. I read hundreds of plays all year long, and it was a play that I was excited about. Her work is remarkable, and what the idea of the season was, either on purpose or inadvertently, I don't know how it turned out, is that the first 3 shows, The Royal Family, Talisvali, and Camelot, would be classic American works, and the spring shows, Annie Baker's Circle Mirror Transformation, Tracy Lett's Superior Donuts, and Yasmina Riza's God of Carnage, would be contemporary works from 3 of the greatest new playwrights working in the theater internationally, not just nationally. I mean, Tracy Letts is a great writer. Superior Donuts is a wonderful play, but he's most famous for the Pulitzer Prize-winning August Osage County. Yasmina Riza, who wrote God of Carnage, which won the Tony Award a year or so ago, is the great find in Europe. She is one of the great writers internationally. She's funny, she's brilliant, she's satiric. So the combination of the three, very different writers, but creating a destination for Pittsburgh audiences in the most modern way. Three of the hottest writers working in the world today and three of their best plays. So it's a lovely combination. Also with great new plays, you get great directors. Circle Mere Transformation is being directed by Jesse Berger, who's one of the great young American directors. And Rob Ruggiero, who directed Ella for us last year and many other shows, is returning to direct Superior Donuts.
You closed last season with a Yasmina Reza play, Art, and you're closing this season with her newest play, God
And
of
I
Carnage.
very selfishly took it on myself. I wanted to direct her work. She's just a great writer. She takes care of her director. She takes care of her actor. She's very clear as to what she wants, and she never writes too much. She writes just enough. They're great parts for actors. God of Carnage, despite its title, is hilarious. It's one of the funniest plays I've ever read, and it will attract a spectacular cast, I'm sure.
Definitely. Well, best of luck with, of course, Camelot. And then the final three shows.
Thank you.
Pittsburgh Public Theater presents Camelot, running January 20th through February 20th. For tickets, call the O'Reilly Theater box office at 412-316-1600 or buy online at ppt.org. Thanks so much for joining us, Ted.
Thanks,
This was
Kristen.
very special.
Thank you. For me, too.
I'd like to thank all of my guests, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time on Theater Talk, your source for Pittsburgh theater.